Donna Blanchard, and this is your ThinkTech news for Friday, October 2nd, 2015. After 3 days of Russian airstrikes in Syria, they have hit a command post and training camp near the northwestern city of Raqqa. This is the first strike in an area that is widely recognized as being under the control of the Islamic State. Russia sent weapons and troops into Syria last week and spoke at the United Nations this week, always firmly stating that they were concerned with eliminating ISIS in Syria, though their tactic has been to support Syrian President Bashar al-Assad. After the U.S. refused to join them in support of Assad, Russian airstrikes began anyway and seemed to only target groups in opposition to Assad. Turkey issued a joint statement with Britain, France, Germany, Qatar, Saudi Arabia, and the United States, calling on Russia to stop targeting the opposition groups that have been supported by these countries, and warning that such attacks would feed radicalism and extremism. The Foreign Minister of Syria, al-Moallem, delivered his nation's speech at the annual General Assembly of the United Nations today, thanking the Russians for coming to the aid of the Syrian army, stating that they were part of its effort to combat terrorism. And who are these groups fighting in opposition to Assad's army in Syria, the ones we are supporting? They are the Army of Conquest, a coalition of insurgent groups that include the Qaeda-affiliated Nusra Front, the hardline Islamist group al-Sham, and a range of less extreme Islamist groups, all of which oppose the Islamic State and Assad. The Minsk Accord is meant to put an end to battle in Ukraine, where nearly 8,000 people have already died. That accord was established in Belarus in February and is supposed to be put into effect by the end of this year. Today, leaders of Russia, Ukraine, Germany, and France met at the Élysée Palace in Paris. President François Hollande hosted President Petro Poroshenko of Ukraine, Angela Merkel, Chancellor of Germany, and Russian President Vladimir Putin to iron out remaining differences in that accord. The situation in Syria has largely eclipsed the battle in Ukraine, though the European Union and United States continue to impose heavy economic sanctions on Russia. One more note related to the conflict in Syria. Golan Heights is a little kibbutz established after Israel captured the area from Syria in 1967 and later formally annexed in 1981. As Syria is quite busy with other matters of state, there is a quiet building boom going on in Golan Heights. Doron Bogodovsky, the kibbutz secretary general, is calling for 100,000 new Golan residents in the next 5 years. He and Israeli minister and leader of the Jewish Home Party, Naftali Bennett, argue that the international, or at least American, recognition of Israel's 1981 annexation of the Golan would be an appropriate salve to Israeli security concerns in the wake of the nuclear deal with Iran. After the mass shooting at a small community college in a rural town in Oregon, in which a heavily armed man killed 10 students and wounded 7 others, President Obama spoke passionately in a news conference condemning what he called a routine of mass shootings. Speaking about U.S. gun laws and the relative ease with which our citizens can obtain guns, he said, "I'd ask the American people to think about how they can get our government to change these laws and to save these lives." In other news, the Afghan government forces, which earlier this week retreated from Kunduz to an outlying airport, have rallied today and are trying to retake the city from Taliban fighters engaging in heavy combat near the city center. Residents are fleeing the area as possible, others hiding in their homes as night, mortar shells, and shrapnel fall around them. A small passenger plane carrying 10 people took off this morning from an airport in Masamba, Indonesia, and apparently vanished from radar shortly thereafter. 11 minutes into the flight, the pilots radioed to controllers that they had reached 8,000 feet, and that was the last they were heard of. AJ Barada, a spokesman for Indonesia's Ministry of Transportation, said they do not know whether the plane crashed. And finally, there has been much speculation about the meeting between the Pope and the Kentucky woman who refused to grant legal marriage licenses to same-sex couples. Addressing the meeting between Kim Davis and Pope Francis last week, the Vatican made a statement today that the meeting was one of a series of meetings with dozens of guests and did not amount to an endorsement of Kim Davis's views on same-sex marriage. Donna Blanchard, ThinkTech News. Happy Aloha Friday, everyone. Thank you.